I'm going to be hosting a fireside chat with Dr. Roland Folz. He's the CEO of a company in Germany called Solarisbank, one of these European Fintech unicorns that we kept on mentioning in the previous discussions. Roland, thank you so much for joining. How are you?
Robin, thank you very much. I'm doing fine. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. A bit warm in the studio, but it's all good. Thank you for joining again. We have about 20 minutes to talk about Solarisbank and your future plans and whatnot. So, but maybe before we start, you have a very deep background, a very long background in financial services. But I'd love to hear from you sort of how you pitch yourself, the short bio.
Oh, the short bio? Sure. Look, I started out on the more entrepreneurial side as running smaller companies. I launched Direktanlagebank, first discount broker in Germany. I listed it on the stock exchange 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, was CEO of Mercedes-Benz Bank. I would say one of the first very successful embedded finance enterprises. You know, not surprisingly, the captive and the automotive financing companies are one of the most profitable organizations, and was CEO there. And then I did 12 corporate years, and I'm very happy to be back in the entrepreneurial space.
Yeah, I can imagine. And how do you pitch Solarisbank? I know you're banking as a service startup, but what does it actually mean? What does it translate to?
Oh, it's very simple. I think with our platform, our European platform, everybody can become a bank. And we basically do the heavy lifting when it comes to product, process, regulation, and they can focus on disruption, value generation, specific target group needs. And it's a perfect symbiosis if you want to be successful with a financial services offering.
Yeah, so everyone can use your services to become a bank. Should everyone become a bank? Why is it necessary?
Well, that's a question that the ecosystem has to answer. But I would say if you look at the success of some of the very large brands, I think their key feature is that they're very client-centric. And client centricity basically means you have an attractive offering that circles around a variety of added values. And financial services can be an added value to that offering. And if you want to include a financial solution to your product, you know, either via payment or an account or a credit, buy now, pay later, or just accessing digital asset securities, or any type of loyalty scheme. I think if you really want to be client-centric and include all of that within your ecosystem, then I think Solarisbank is a perfect match for you.
Yeah. Can you name some specific examples of non-financial companies that are using your services to offer banking services to their clients?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you take Samsung as one example. Basically, we're deeply integrated into the Samsung phones. And it allows the customer very easily to use the Samsung phone as a payment device. And then it's linked to a buy now, pay later solution. So if you spend more than 100 euros, you can retrospectively transfer that payment into an installment loan. And I think it's an extremely useful and easy solution for any Samsung phone user. One example.
Yeah. Now, Solarisbank had quite a breakout year last year, I would argue, like many other fintech companies, but it's quite extraordinary. If you think about, you know, you acquired Contis in the UK, which is sort of a rival to break into that market. You raised, I think, 190 million euro round, giving you unicorn status. You've grown your team, I think, to more than 700 staff across multiple offices. So what's it been like from the inside?
I think anybody that has built a company knows growth is fun, but it's challenging. And you need to focus on the team. You need to focus on building the processes so that they can scale. You know, there's some great charts that describe the evolution of an organization, and I would say Solaris is at a place when you look at scaling across Europe where you really need to be strong on your processes. So that they are robust and multi-country, and they can take huge loads. And the risk that comes with that is one of bureaucracy, and silo thinking. And so I really try to help the team, making sure that we don't focus only on that one little part of the process that you're responsible and make that robust, but we still keep an eye towards the overall agile environment, that we're fast and helping each other, despite the fact that we need to be very robust and growing. And that's really, I would say, also for this year, the focus. We're now an organization, 14 months ago, Berlin-centric, mainly looking at the German market. And now we have launched branches in France, Italy, Spain. We can issue local IBANs there with the German IBANs. We have joined forces with Contis. They have the ability to issue UK IBANs or English IBANs and Lithuania IBANs. And so we're suddenly an organization that stretches around 8 countries: Germany, France, Italy, Spain, the UK, Lithuania, India, and the Ukraine. And, the Ukraine, suddenly you're then confronted with global challenges, which we never had to deal with. And that is, from an organization perspective, it really puts you always beyond your capabilities. It means you have to learn and grow and develop. And that's not only true for myself, but for the whole team.
Yeah, I guess never a boring day at Solarisbank. You are also a proper bank. You have a banking license for the specific reasons that your clients do not need one. How do you rate the regulatory environment in general, both in Germany and Europe as a whole?
Look, it's fragmented, and there's the different country regulators. And you look at Germany, and there's not one regulator. There's BaFin, there's Bundesbank, there's the securities regulator, there's the insurance regulator, then you have ECB. So I think it would be great if you would have a more unified approach towards regulation across Europe. I think that could strengthen the competitiveness of Europe as a whole. And I'm one of the advocates that always argues for a European-wide regulation rather than a country-specific regulation. But in general, we're aligned. I mean, we want to make sure that we build an organization that is robust and keeps fraudsters out and enables our clients to work in a safe and compliant environment. And so in general, I have no issues with that. Of course, it's when you're running a growth organization that builds a product that hasn't existed in the financial services world, i.e. a European core banking platform that allows European ecosystems to integrate via APIs and offer financial solutions. That's not like your typical bank branch that is having an advisor and selling you an investment fund. It's a completely different, it's a tech-based financial services world. And there, I think we have learning fields on both sides where we're happy to reach out and tell our story. And we need to also find that openness on the other side that they support and learn and grow with us. Look at digital assets. I mean, we're probably one of the largest European organizations that links up with the digital asset space in various shapes or forms. And that's not going to go away. I think it's an area where we both need to learn how do we deal with that. I think the US is a step ahead. I think there's a much wider acceptance of the product and the leading it together with the traditional regulatory spaces. I think Europe is a little bit more cautious right now, and I think that cautiousness should transfer into interest and excitement and learning, and then we deal with that.
Yeah. Well, let's see how it evolves. How do you balance? Because I'm guessing as a business you want to grow, you want to enter new markets, you want to grow the revenue, but at the same time you sort of also want to make sure that you diversify and that you evolve with the times. Crypto is a good example of how fast things are moving. So how do you balance those two things, like expanding new markets, expanding the existing business versus diversifying the products and the services that you offer to your clients and ultimately their end customers?
That is looking a little bit at our secret sauce, I would say. I think, look, you have limited resources and you need to apply them in the most value generating way. And there's, trust me, there's always a fight about where should we deploy our product and tech resources Should it be on new products? Should it be on new markets? Should it be on regulatory requirements? Should it be on operational support? And this is, but I think that's the secret sauce. You need to balance that, and you need to make sure that, of course, from a regulatory perspective, you need to strengthen and build stable processes and make sure your organization is robust. Yet at the same time, you need to balance your clients' needs for different products and markets. And I think we're actually we've been working really successfully with a business unit logic for the last 3-4 years, and we're shifting that now towards a country logic. So we empower our MDs in the countries more so that they get the attention from the product and tech resources to make sure that the French and the Spanish and Italian organizations will be equally successful as the English, the Lithuanian, and the German one.
Yeah, it makes sense, because every market is different, and different cultures and the way that financial services are approached is different, of course. Makes a lot of sense to me. Now, to build trust with your customers, it's also important the fact that you're regulated, of course, but also that you're well financed. I already talked about the fact that you've raised quite a huge round of funding, Series D funding last year. It's probably not going to end there. Correct me if I'm wrong. But do you plan to tap into public markets for more financing, or do you think you're good with sort of the late stage investment that you have available to you now?
I think we're in a lucky situation, and that is Solaris is continuously faced with tremendous growth, and that growth comes with additional capital requirements. Part of that is driven by regulation, and part of that is driven by our own ambition to move into new markets in Europe and maybe at some point in time beyond. So I don't think profitability is really on the agenda right now. I mean, I get it, right now with looking at the markets, profitability is something that in the long term has to be achieved. Unit economics are very important, and they are very positive for us. So the organization is scaling. We have more than 5 million accounts. I don't tell the number exactly, but it's significantly higher than 5 million. And so to that extent, we do need additional capital. Now, how are we going to achieve that? I said publicly that we would look at a listing readiness by mid-year. Now, looking at the markets today, I think we don't need to really stress ourselves. I think we can take a little bit more time to get ready with that. But ultimately, it would be the shareholders' decision if they want to tap into a listed market, or if they want to maybe add money themselves, or maybe we add other partners. I saw the sessions earlier on, and I think I agree. There's still a lot of money out there that looks for attractive investments, and I would say Solaris is one that, despite the current market turbulences, the overall mega trend of embedded finance is fully intact, and the momentum that we have on the commercial side is really, really strong, with fantastic brands, global brands that understand the added value that our platform is giving to them. So I would say we'll see how we take that. I'm orchestrating that with our shareholders, and we'll see how we will continue that thirst for additional capital for Solaris.
Yeah, great answer. On that note, how do you rate the competitive landscape? Do you feel like you compete more with the incumbents, the big banks, or do you feel like you're starting to compete more with other banking as a service startups or embedded finance scale-ups?
It depends. Because of the magnitude or the strength of the Solaris platform being in different product areas, you encounter different competitors. I would say, and in general, competition is cool because it keeps us on our toes. So I don't want to miss it. It would be boring without competition. Looking at the different markets, different products, it could be a fintech, it could be an incumbent. But the nice thing is that nobody can offer the services that we are. And as soon as you talk to a client that is looking for, let's say, a card, an account, and a checkout type solution that is multi-country, let's take the 5 largest markets in Europe: UK, Germany, France, Italy, Spain. Boom, we are right there with our solution. We can offer the local IBANs. We have the access to all additional products and services which they eventually might want to add to, be digital assets or securities or whatnot. So I think we have a KYC solution which is fantastic and also is European. So while competition is there, I don't think there's anybody that has yet achieved a product offering like Solaris, and that I think differentiates us.
Good answer. As we move towards the end of this discussion, I do wanted to ask a slightly different question. If you were an investor investing in fintech, aside from Solarisbank, what are the type of companies that you would invest in, or the type of sub-verticals that you think are quite interesting in this space?
Oh, there's there's different angles. Of course, there's tremendous disruption opportunities which still exist, and I think if you look at the type of financial solutions that are currently out there, I think some of the fintechs move more and more into the advisory space. So really the true home where a lot of value right now is sitting with a lot of branch focused financial institutions. And I think, taking artificial intelligence and moving into some of those behavior driven recommendation type ventures, I think that could be very attractive. So on the customer side, I think there's tremendous opportunities for disruption. But then also, if you look at processes that are inefficient, I would probably say that in the securities area, there's still opportunities for disruption, which I would certainly, if from a Solaris perspective, if we would have more product and tech, I think that's something that I would tackle. Sometimes I look back into my first experiences when we look at DAB and discount brokerage, and I'm like, oh my God, what has not happened there the last 20 years? So maybe let's look at that. And you see some very successful organizations, but from a process perspective, I think there's still quite a bit of disruption opportunities there as well.
Well, great to hear from you that you still see lots of opportunity ahead for innovation, disruption, whatever you want to call it. Let's talk about the Contis acquisition. I've mentioned it before. I think you already mentioned the driving force behind it was to be able to enter the UK quickly. Do you foresee making other acquisitions to sort of support your organic growth, or is that not really in the books?
I wouldn't rule it out, but to be brutally honest, I think merging two organizations that are both very successful and growing very fast takes a cautious hand in managing that. So it's, we have almost 200 people on the Contis side. We have 500 people on the Solaris side. We both have huge growth ambitions. We have fantastic momentum on the client side on both sides. So you don't want to really destroy any of that. You want to encourage it and grow it. So this will probably keep us busy for a little while. Yet at the same time, there are opportunities that almost on a daily basis come along. I would say focus is on the Contis Solaris, but if there is an opportunity, I certainly wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah, definitely not smart to rule anything out in your position of growth. We only have a minute left. Do you have any parting thoughts for maybe aspiring entrepreneurs in the fintech space? What kind of areas should they be looking at to tackle where there's lots of opportunity?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I think, as I said earlier on, there are different spaces. I would just say, if you are wondering about an entrepreneurial space, be prepared for a lot of sleepless nights and tough times, which will require all the strength that you have. But don't give up. It's worthwhile fighting for. Look, we at Solaris, we're only 6 years old. And we're dealing with some of the most reputable global brands, and they want to partner with us. And I would say 6 years is really nothing. I mean, you might look at it and you might say, oh, I'm going to do the startup and going to really have a mega success of the next 24 months, and then I'm going to be a multi-millionaire. Trust me, it's going to be very different. It's going to be exhaustive. It's going to take longer than you think. It might not be a multimillionaire at the end, but it's going to be a lot of fun, and you will grow through that journey tremendously as a person. So go for it.
Yeah, I think that's great advice that we're very, very happy to share with our audience as well. Roland, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate that you took out time for your schedule for this, and I wish you all the best for the future of Solaris.
Thank you very much, Robin. Great chatting with you.